For 40 years, the woman returned to the harbor every single sunset. Not because she loved the ocean, because she believed her husband was still alive. The people of Valmir called Lady Elara insane. Children whispered about her from the market streets while sailors avoided her eyes at the docks. Every evening, no matter the weather, she stood beside the freezing water holding the same silver compass her husband had given her before the war. Commander Lucien had vanished in the northern campaign of 1581. The king announced his death only 3 months after the fleet disappeared. No bodies returned. No survivors arrived home. The kingdom mourned briefly, then moved on. But Elara refused to. She sold her jewelry to keep waiting at the harbor. She ignored every nobleman who tried convincing her to remarry. Even her own family abandoned her, embarrassed by the woman who spent decades staring at empty waters like a ghost. But Elara remembered something nobody else did. The night before Lucien sailed away, he whispered that if anything happened, she should never trust the king. At first, she believed grief had twisted those words inside her mind. But as years passed, rumors quietly spread through taverns and among old soldiers. Some claimed the Northern Fleet had not been defeated by enemies at all. Others whispered the king secretly abandoned the ships after discovering gold beneath the frozen northern islands. Still, nobody dared question the crown publicly. Then one winter evening, 40 years after the fleet vanished, the harbor bells suddenly began ringing on their own. A damaged black warship slowly emerged through the fog. The sails were torn to pieces. Its wood looked ancient and frozen white from decades at sea. Terrified citizens gathered near the docks as an old sailor stepped onto land carrying the royal banner of Valmir. And behind him walked Commander Lucien. He looked exactly the same age as the day he disappeared. The harbor fell silent. Elara collapsed, to her knees in tears as Lucien slowly approached her through the snow. After 40 years of waiting, the man she loved had finally returned. But when she touched his face, he barely recognized her. Lucien revealed the horrifying truth before the entire city. The king had betrayed his own fleet. After discovering enormous gold reserves beneath the frozen northern islands, the crown secretly ordered the fleet abandoned to prevent the soldiers from claiming the treasure for themselves. Thousands were left trapped in the ice with no way home. Most died within the first years. Lucien survived. For decades, he and the remaining soldiers lived in frozen isolation, waiting for a rescue ship that never came. While the kingdom declared them heroes, the crown erased them from history. Panic spread across Valmir overnight. Citizens flooded the streets demanding answers. Old soldiers turned against the palace. Government buildings burned before dawn as the king locked himself inside the royal fortress. But for Elara, the greatest pain was not the betrayal. It was realizing the man she spent 40 years waiting for no longer truly belonged to the world she remembered. And as the kingdom collapsed around them, the two stood silently beside the harbor, like strangers connected only by a love that time had already destroyed.